Hello again. Day 47, 100% raw vegan, 2 meals per day. And today I had to do a fair bit of heavy work in the garden using a mattock, chipping away at some stone. We got the new water tank put in after the other one collapsed. The old one collapsed and we had a 12,000 litre tsunami downhill. So I had to do a bit of mattock work, getting some odds and bods in place for that. And chipping away at some stone and using the shovel, and then we planted some pineapples. Had to cut some soil around and some mulch in the wheelbarrow, and at a minimum weight at the moment. That was an interesting exercise. So a lot of the time I felt like I was just had to suck in air because I wasn't getting enough oxygen. And some might say, well, your B12's low or your iron's low, but considering I've only been doing this for 47 days, I've reduced my weight by several kilos, and the body conserves nutrients, so any deficiency is very much unlikely. So what we're dealing with is a vital adjustment as the body attempts to restore homeostasis given better quality nutrition and the fact that it's ejecting lesser quality materials. So there's a lot of internal work happening, and yes, I do have to get used to using less muscle to do more work. So you're actually improving the efficiency of your cells, and you're improving the efficiency of your muscles, of your body in general, and all the organs. But this doesn't happen overnight, considering the way we've normally been living our lives for several years, sometimes several decades. It doesn't happen overnight. But someone asked me a question, one of my friends asked me a question, what did I think of superfoods? And I've used plenty of so-called superfoods in my life, had lots of fun with them, but when it comes to health truth, I just want to say a few things. The first one is whole food. Whole foods are foods as nature has prepared them. That means they contain the greatest spectrum of nutrients that nature thought possible and necessary within them. So they are the foods that are going to contain the most nutrition. So if at all possible, we should be consuming our foods whole. One of the things is food in its natural state. There is a normal relationship between our senses and that food. So we can choose via sight, smell and taste whether or not the body actually needs or wants that food, because of its whether or not it agrees with our appetite. So as soon as we start to modify that food, then we lose that normal relationship, and then we start to make errors in terms of choosing types of foods and the quantity of foods and the quality of foods, and whether or not they're actually, we're meant to be taking them into our bodies. So whole foods. The other thing is, as soon as we fractionate a food, we start to lose nutrients. So we're losing a lot of the goodness that nature has provided in that food, and they start to oxidize. So we're losing antioxidants. When food starts to oxidize, it's the antioxidants that are getting used up and depleted. But one of the first things we lose is the living water in the living food. Water is an essential nutrient. It's more essential than the solid food itself, because we'll die quicker without water than we will without solid food. So water we lose almost immediately as soon as we start to cook something, or if we powderize something, dehydrate something, we fractionate it. One of the things we start to lose is the living water, and then a lot of those water-soluble nutrients as well. And if things are oxidizing, if those macronutrients, the proteins, the fats, the carbohydrates are oxidizing, they're going rancid, they're fermenting, they're putrefying, some things are happening, especially fats, they go rancid. We're getting more harmful products into our diet in an effort to try and get in some things which are supposedly good. So whole food, water, our fruits and vegetables contain 75 to 95% water by content. So it's interesting that our tissues of our body are also between 75 to 95% water, and the more evolved those tissues are, the more refined those tissues are, such as certain areas in our central nervous system, they contain 90 to 95% water. So, water, living water, enters into our tissues, and is very much a part of the function and activity of those tissues and the evolution of those tissues. So it's a nutrient we don't really want to be missing. So all I can say is a lot of those superfoods, they've been dehydrated into powders. And as I said, I've had lots of them: mesquite, maca, different things, and I've had lots of fun with them. They taste great. Had them in smoothies, what have you. But it's just something to consider. The other thing I want you to consider is local foods. You see, the sun produces radiations, and not only our sun, Sol, our star, but other stars and other planets. Anything above 0 degrees Kelvin, which is absolute zero, emits radiation. And the hotter that object is, the more radiation emits, all the way from the lowest, which are the power frequency or radio frequency waves, all the way up to cosmic rays. So cosmic rays are the highest, finest spectrum of radiations, and only the hottest objects, those with the most energy or producing the most energy and emitting the most energy, emit cosmic waves, and they come from the stars. Not only that, all the elements that we could possibly want to need as far as nutrition is concerned is found on the sun, and they are ejected in vibrational form, that is in a radiative medium, across the universe, out across the universe. And that energy is actually information. It's information. So that information arrives here on the planet. The plants receive that radiation, that information, and by means of their circuit, because their roots are in the soil with moisture, with the water, and with all those minerals. And the minerals create a circuit through which these radiations can move, and the plants capturing that energy, converting it into electrons and electricity, the photons into electrons and electricity, and using it to create nutrients within itself and energy within itself. So we take those plant energies from that environment, so that plant is in a certain locality, and it receives that information necessary to survive, and uses that information to survive in that environment. So those plants, therefore, grown locally, that we eat, also impart to us that information necessary for us to survive, and gives us commands within our cellular function that we're not even aware of what our cells must do and how they must adapt and what they must do to restore and maintain homeostasis in that environment by eating those plant foods. Now, animals eat the plants, but again, it's a second-hand product. So under the law of entropy, the highest energy comes from the sun and into the plant, and any change subsequent thereof, there is a degradation in that energy, in that information, in the purity of that information stream. Animals take plant foods up to their level of organisation. We take plant foods up to our level of organisation, which is higher than the plants. That's something I'll discuss later on in another video. So plants grown locally have an incident radiation necessary for us to maintain homeostasis and survive and thrive in our environment. So when you import ingredients from across the other side of the globe or a different climate completely, you're getting different nutritional information, and problems can only result. Problems that you might not be aware of if you haven't taken the time out to actually get in touch with what your body is saying. But that's something to consider as well. The other thing is, foods grown naturally, when the soil has been cultivated correctly and the plants have been given all the conditions that they need to thrive, that is the best, most nutritious food that you're ever going to find. So a superfood is a plant that's grown locally, kept in its whole state as much as possible, and where the conditions have been cultivated, the soil, the water, and the nutrients, especially the microbial activity in the soil, for those plants to thrive. That to me is a superfood. So any of those plants that we would ordinarily consume, whether vegetable, herbs, fruits, they are superfoods when they've been grown naturally in their local environment and they haven't been fractionated in any way. That's a superfood. Having said that, I know a lot of people have businesses around superfood products. They're importing in from different places of the world. Sure, have fun. If you're not getting in a good whole food diet and a raw food diet, and maybe the nutrition where you are is poor in quality, then maybe those superfoods that you import from different countries and different areas are going to have a benefit for you. But they're not necessary if you're getting in a good whole food, naturally grown, locally grown diet of the best quality nutrition. They're not necessary. But they do have a place if your nutrition isn't so great. And if you want to have a little bit of fun, for instance, if you want to do something different. So yeah, go for it. But all we're saying is there are circumstances where they're not necessarily going to be required. So, a little bit of information for you. You may agree with it, you may not. Post your comment if you like. Love to hear from you. And yeah, we'll leave it at that. So I'll see you again shortly. Remember to have fun. Bye-bye.